Alright, so you guys have been asking me to take a look at the self-wound archetype, talking about Berserk, because there's been a lot of changes to this archetype since 10.2. Now, I've been messing around with it for a couple days, and I like it, I like the concept of it. I don't love the way it's been performing in the matchups that I've been getting. However, I did get some good games for you guys today, and I'll show you a couple different versions for inspiration that I came up with here, starting with the first one here. You guys know I like some control tools, so mine does have some control tool options. Some of the issues with the deck that I'm finding is the fact that we're self-wounding and they're just finishing the kills a lot of the time when we're playing against Siege, or we're playing against Nilfgaard Control, or we're playing against Status Nilfgaard, we're playing against Syndicate Bounty. There's a lot of different things that can go wrong with some of these matchups, but I want to have control tools to help deal with some of the things that they have. So we'll get to that as well. And a lot of draw consistency issues were prevalent as well. At the beginning, I had to go ahead and put in the Hey Scald to sort of counter that and get through my cards. We do sacrifice a little bit of points because of that. However, if we have Coral out, it'll be engineering Coral. So it's not the end of the world. This is the version that I'm happy with, and we had to greed it out a little bit to get some more points and some more control options, so I didn't go with the defender in this list. So we have Fukusha for starters. Play a Skellige unit from our graveyard with a provision cost of 10 or less and give it doomed. Then spawn Rain in the opposite row with a duration equal to the unused provisions. So more than often in this deck, we're going to be going for something that's expensive, whether it be the Olaf or the Melusine or the Nutcallus or the Sigvald, right? One of these more expensive cards, definitely, if we're playing them early on, as we often should, especially with the Melusine, right? And that's pretty much it. We do have bronze options too that could spawn a ton of Rain. If we just need something to play here, we can always go for that there. So it's very flexible. I like Fukusha in pretty much every Skellige deck that I'm playing right now. I think that we need some tall punish or scenario punish, right? Getting rid of an artifact, getting rid of a tall unit. We have Karathi Heatwave, banish unit, our artifact. Pretty simple. When you think you've seen the biggest threat, you just take the Heatwave on it. So that's kind of what we'll be doing today. Now, this version has Olaf, the second one doesn't. Part of me thinks it's a little bit of a trap, because whenever I'm playing this version, or when I'm playing this version a lot, I'm queuing into pirates quite often. And I'm talking about the non-devotion pirates that has the Junad, and this isn't sticking. And I could say the same thing for the Melusine, but it's hard to get this to stick. There's a lot of matchups where this can go wrong, right? Giving this Rupture is good value, so it might be a little bit bait, but I wanted to have backup targets for Nutcallus if we don't have our polls, because we rely very heavily on Sigvald, and if we put in cards like Royal Decree to draw it in addition to the discard package, then we're losing points. So it was a tough spot to fill. So this version has Olaf again. If it works quite well. We can recycle this with Nutcallus, because we could damage this by half its power, damage something else, then we can basically put a restore on it and then do it again, and then we can basically use its order. Like, it's pretty nuts when it actually works. So it's one of those, like, little bit of risk, you get a pretty good reward in exchange, but it's a matter of keeping it out there long enough to see that benefit. Now, Melusine here, Veil, order, spawn Rain in an enemy row for 2 turns and damage self by 2. At the end of your turn, damage adjacent units by 1 and gain 1 base power for every damaged unit. Basically, if any was a cultist, refresh the order. So we could put a lot of things beside the Melusine, right? We could put the Sigvald, we could put the priests or the hermits to reset the order, or we can just put the armored Drakars in this case, because every time the armor's exposed, we're going to be able to boost ourselves by 1. So but there's 2, boost self by 2. So if we get Rain on their side and then we break our own armor, we're getting an even better boost. So definitely something you want to have there. Maybe you sandwich this beside Melusine for a bit, and then you sort of put like a Svalblod priest in between, so we can refresh the order. Then on the outside, you maybe dump like a hermit or a second priest on the leftmost side of it, so you can get this going, Melusine going, and then the engine's going, right? So that's kind of the way you'd sandwich it. pretty good points when it works. Again, keeping it there's the problem. And I did run Defender in the very first version that I scrapped. And I found with Defender, it wasn't solving the problems that we had, right? The problems that we had is keeping this card. A lot of people are damaging it using Vigo's muzzle. They're taking an early heat wave, a lot of stuff like that. So we're not always getting this ability, right? Getting this engineering out and getting the renew value later when we bring it back from the grave. So I didn't feel like Defender was helping all that much because they purified Defender, everyone's running Purify, and then they do the same thing anyways. So Defender was playing 9 for 9 a lot of the time, so that's why I took it out. So again, high risk, high reward here. Cirrus Fearless, after you've dealt damage to allied units 9 times, summon self from your deck to the ranged row. Zeal in order, fully heal an allied unit and damage another allied unit by the amount healed with a cooldown of 1. So this gets extreme value. This will help basically play into the Svalblod play and really anything else that's been, you know, damaged a lot. So that's really cool. The only issue is that I'm finding, and some of you guys might agree with this, but I'm finding that when I have a good draw first round, I'm talking about establishing Melusine carryover, playing 1 or 2 bronze engines to support that with the Drakars and really get things going, then Cirrus is coming out round 1. So that's kind of the issue, right? I wish that we were able to keep this card in the deck long enough that we can use it in like one of the more important rounds, because oftentimes they'll just pass on that and then we don't have this card for later, right? All to establish carryover for the Melusine. So it gets a little bit little tough there, but it is what it is. We have Quarrel for discard, of course. Every time we discard a card, damage random enemy unit by 2. So this kind of synergizes with the Drakars, right? Getting that Bloodthirst going, and also just synergizes with the discard package being the Burna, the Morkvarg, and the Tuirseach Skirmishers, right? This helps discard 2. These are good discard targets, the Morkvarg as well, and then the Skald, of course, to help finish whatever Burna couldn't finish. That's basically it. Sigdurf is right, summon a Skellige unit from your graveyard to an allied row and give it doomed. So you can do Melusine, right? It has Veil, so it won't get doomed, that's fine. If it's round 3 and we have other ways to get a Melusine, maybe we use Fukushia, we can do like an Olaf or Not the Callus, Sigvald, maybe we missed the discard, we can go in for Coral. There's a lot of options that way. So, very flexible card. Now, Heron Kadoosh is something that I haven't really seen. However, I used it in my 9.5 Berserk deck, and I found that it was pretty useful in situations where maybe we take a discard on like the Hermits because they're a little bit slow, and then we need something to inflict damage, and oftentimes you might go for the Bear Witcher Quartermaster because it helps do that quite effectively and quickly, right? And oftentimes when we're using a lot of rain, we can go for the Bear Witcher Mentor. So both of these options make quite sense. We don't have a lot of control, so I'm relying on Bear Witcher maybe to come in clutch in some situations where if we have rain on the row, we hit a 4, it goes down 3, the 1 pings off from the rain. So there's a little bit of more reason behind it there. There's going to be a lot of healing that we want to do, obviously, towards late game. So, because we're going to be damaging ourselves, but they're also going to be damaging ourselves, right? So the Heron Kadoosh helps heal 2 units by 2, which could be quite effective, right? Sigvald, this is a card that's got a big rework. I think it's pretty cool. You know, whenever this unit's damaged by other abilities, gain bleeding for the same duration instead. Order damage a unit by the same duration of bleeding on self, then purify self. If it was an enemy, damage self by the same amount. If it was an ally, boost self by the same amount. So again, this does play quite nicely into the Quartermaster, right? You get those 2 tokens. You don't really have to worry about killing one to get a big payoff boost. So that's another little synergy that we have going on there. But otherwise, we're just putting tons of bleeding on this. We're damaging things by the same amount every turn with the Not the Callus, and then, you know, at the end we just we click and we kill and we boost, right? I'm finding that this card is getting seized and heat waved quite a bit as well. People are kind of preparing for that, or they're just answering the Callus, which is also a problem. So again, lots of moving pieces to get it to work, and the draw dependency makes it sometimes difficult, right? We have the Giga Scorpion because I value a bit of control, right? I want to be able to remove something like the Rafford's Vengeance or the Horse and Freak Show, like all these types of cards that are like one of their kind of big commitments for the round, and they're like the powerhouse engine. We need to be able to stop these things. Giga Scorpion helps quite well with that. So this is why I have it here. I tried Delirium for a bit. I tried going with neither for a bit, and I did try a lock, and yeah, I kind of just like Giga here. It just feels pretty comfortable. We can use it numerous ways. So that's that. This version has Restore. The other one doesn't have Restore. Made a little bit of changes because heal an allied unit and boost it by the amount it was healed. So this can work super well with Melusine if we can keep continuing to use Rain and really nudge it down to nothing, right? And then we just get this huge payoff. Otherwise, it could work really well on the Olaf, right? Pretty much anything we can make it work on. But I was finding more than often we're healing 3 or 4, and we're boosting 3 or 4. So for what it's worth, it was playing like a Swallow some of the time, right? And more in shorter rounds than not, right? So if we're playing against Northern Realms Siege, which tends to be quite frequent, they're going to come out super aggressive round 1, and then they're going to try and bleed into Owen round 2, which usually puts us into a shorter round 3. So then this card feels pretty sad, right? And when they still have like a second Amphibious left and a couple other things left, and we're playing Restore from hand, it doesn't always feel great. So that's why it's in this one, but not in the other one, because I still haven't made up my mind about it. I did run the Tuirseach Veterans in the first version that I had, and I was liking this interaction with the Melusine. I tried the Adaran and the Megascopes for a bit because I needed more points, and the Adaran with the Megascopes and the Tuirseach Veterans was even more to set up in this event from what we already have a lot to set up, that it just didn't feel appropriate. So I ended up taking these out to save provisions so I can put in a little bit beefier top end. So that's basically why they're not there, and in their place essentially would be the Drakars, right? They're doing pretty much the same thing. It's really disheartening when we have this out there at 5, we damage it down to 4, it's got 4, it's about to heal the next turn, they take a bomb. That's a problem that I was having quite a bit. They're getting really good value for like their 4-point removal cards, so I just felt like it had to go for now. Svalblod Priest, if it sticks, it works really well. At the end of your turn, damage units to the right by 1, then boost self by 2. So again, you want to put this, like I said, beside Melusine to reset the order, or beside the Drakars pretty well. You can even stick it beside the Sigvald, so you have options and flexibility there. I like 2 Gutting Slashes. I like a little bit more control. Damage unit by 4, Bloodthirst 2, damage unit by 6 instead. We could set up Bloodthirst pretty well with, you know, just the rain and whatnot, but again, if not, we have really good 4-point removal, and there's no shortage of need for that because all these decks with 4-point engines are really, really, really prominent on the ladder right now. So expect to get some good value from the Gutting Slash. Hermit is good. It's a little slower, but it's definitely good. Damage self by 4, Berserk 6. At the end of your turn, damage the units to the right by 1 and heal self by 2. So this helps complete the sandwich. We talked about it with the Drakar, the Melusine, and the Priests, right? But oftentimes, this will probably be one of your discard targets if you don't draw your Skirmishers and your Morkvarg, right? Because you'll see more value, I think, from the Drakar, assuming you have the Priests and the Melusine, than you will the Hermits. So that's the issue. And this card in a short round 3, 3-4 card round 3 is horrendous because it comes out at 3 points and it almost pretty well stays there if it sticks on the board. So really tough situation to be in with that. But that's pretty much version 1. I'll show you guys a few games with that one and also show you V2. So I was finding that I didn't have a lot of points in short round situations. So I wanted to improve on that issue a little bit with this version here. So, and also setting up Bloodthirst was a little bit of a concern for me, right? I wanted to make it that much easier just to have the Bloodthirst and not have to dish things around for no reason with this play. You know, just use these to complete actually important kills. So the Mushy Truffle comes in with the bonded half-roos, because these are really good proactive plays. I don't like playing stuff like Hermits and Svalblod Priests from hand onto an empty board, but I don't mind playing a half-roo. So that's pretty much why they come down here. It just makes a lot of sense there. And what we can do is we can truffle them, and we can click them and put rain on their side of the playing field, so we can actually start just getting a lot of rain damage out there and really help setting up Bloodthirst more effectively for the gutting slashes. And you know, pretty much that's it, right? I took out the Drakars in this case because I wanted to make room for them, and I felt like it was a little bit more effective. There is maybe consideration to actually just say forget about the Hermits and put the Drakars back in, but then we're becoming more reliant on the Priests. So you see where I'm coming from here. It's a tough spot to fill. I think Power is important because if you put Rupture on the Sigvald dies. If you basically need to get through a defender to heatwave something, you have the ability to do so with the Peller, right? There's a lot of different reasons for that. If we're going super tall with something besides Melusine, you know, you want to be able to purify it if it's poisoned. So again, these things matter. Olaf in this comes out for Mushy, by the way. That's the change that we made. Pretty much everything remains the same. In this version here, it has Blue Boy because I'm finding Blue Boy works really well with the Kadoosh, right? We talked about the Quartermasters, and it also works quite well with the Priests, Melusine, and the Hermits, right? So this is kind of like our pseudo Drakars in a way. These guys, where are they? There we go. So yeah, Blue Boy's taking their place here, and we get pretty good value because if we heal Blue Boy with the Cirrus, we could do it all again. That's the best part about it, right? We just recycle that, keep going with it. And yeah, so this is pretty much it. A little bit of an awkward like end here because we're taking 2 cards to help with the consistency issue and the purify issue, but they're taking away from a little bit of the bronze tempo that we can have. So that's the thing. Again, still draw dependent on the top end, but we don't feel bad about taking a round with Truffle and Kadoosh, and then, you know, saving some of the other plays for a different round. So that's pretty much it here. Again, I've got a couple games with both. Do I enjoy the deck? I think it's really cool. I like the concept of it. I think it has really good potential when it works. I'm pretty happy with the results that I've got as far as like the deck construction element of it. Like, it feels pretty good, but it doesn't play well into control in my opinion. This might be something that I continue to mess around with over the season. However, for now I'm pretty content with it. We'll get into the games, and if you guys enjoy the content that you see, don't forget to sub to the channel. I just want to take the time to thank you guys for 5K subs. Been grinding at it since November last year, really hard every single day, and we hit another milestone. So no short-term milestones. The next one we're going for is 10K. It'll be a while from now, I'm sure, but I'm determined to get it done. With your help, we can make it happen. Let's get into the games. Alright, and for the first game here, we got Syndicate Jackpot. So keep in mind, this hand that we have right here is kind of like the perfect hand. Pretty much, we take maybe a couple mulligans so we can play deeper in the round if necessary. Like not the Callus, maybe Restore here, or Siggy's is fine, yeah. Got one more mulligan, it'll probably be Callus or the Hermit in most cases. So what I found to be the most effective is just jamming the Melusine early. And we got to decide if we want to click that stratagem and get a discard there to set up Melusine for a turn, or do we just want to float Melusine for a turn? So that's the hard part. I'm deciding that we probably want to have those extra points and damage, because if they come down with tax collectors and things of that sort, we want to have an answer to them. Siggy round 1 tells me what we're in for here. Okay, so we have a couple units there. So now we can actually go and start getting things going. It's probably the Hermit here, a little slow. And then we can jam the Melusine down. Kind of the idea. And I do it this way just in case they're non-devotion. They go ahead and Heatwave Melusine anyways. We don't really get that carryover, so we do get that damage off the coral nice and early, which could help us get the round. Seeing Tunnel Drill come down is pretty nuts. This is what I was talking about. We have damage for 6. We just click. Now, we had an open Gutting Slash there. That's also something we could have used. I don't think it's going to make the world of a difference, because either way we're going to be able to set up Bloodthirst quite effectively. And I'm just going ahead and clicking the Melusine whenever I have the chance to, because I'm thinking that, okay, if they get rid of it, at least we're getting some damage with us. We're bringing that, right? We're taking their points down. It's getting to a point where we might consider passing this round. So either way, the way we purposed Gutting Slash and Giga, it's fine because they both took out Spenders. And we might as well use that while we have it. This would provoke a pass, and it's one of the things that I'm finding is, like, you want to take a round if everything works out for you, right? When you get all those good cards in hand, you got to take a round. But that round also generates a lot of points because Sirius comes out from deck and all that sort of stuff. So it feels like Sirius is almost like a round 1 play with this deck. Got my drink with the ice cube, so hopefully it's not too loud here. And I'm just deciding, okay, let's go for a thin. Because they're not going to make it in 1. And we definitely want to pull into some win conditions here. I just kind of want to see what they have, right? We have time to maybe build up the Melusine a bit more, right? Doesn't really matter where we put the Kusha here. Sandwich that in the middle. I'm hoping that we get a big spend, right? And then if we pull Sigdriff right, we could just do like a last say finisher with the Melusine at 22, 24 points, whatever the case. Depends on how long we can play here. So that's the thing. If you're playing Jackpot bounties, I think you have a severe advantage against Self-Wound if you're playing non-devotion. I think if you're playing Devotion, that's when it gets a bit more difficult. So if they were able to just Heatwave the Melusine, that's fine. And then they could just destroy whatever else we have, right? Now, I'm not overly convinced that... Okay, that changes things a little bit. Makes you wonder if a heat wave's necessary here. I decided that the leader commitment's kind of big. Was hoping that now that they've used leader in round 2 and they've used Siggy in round 1, they might not have the means of replenishing bank as much in round 3, which means a lot of their offensive spending with damage might not work. They could be running maybe a freak show as well. Yeah, we're at 23. That's pretty good. spend away on the Jackal. You see what I mean? They go down to nothing. The 1 coin goes to nothing. Round 3. And we're fortunate enough to get like pretty good draws here, of course. Restore, I'm banking on for the content here. Callus, there we go. We have kind of like all the key cards if you think about it. So I think that with a lot of our 10s and tall units, we gotta get rid of the Witchfinder. Don't love it, but it's not bad. And that's okay. For something like this, you just put down Sigvald because they can't damage it here. But they can certainly bounty Graydon or Mariels, right? Because it doesn't take damage, but it does have the ability to get destroyed, so. So, I probably would have used the order on the Sigvald on this turn if they had more of a board state. But then again, it does give them coin if we damage ourselves and kill ourselves off, right? So it's not what you want to play if there's like a 1-power unit. You want them to kind of work for it here with the Graydon. So it feels bad, but it's fine. And I don't love the spend, but I look at it like the bigger picture. If that's their last spender, then we're doing just fine, right? Well, last offensive spender at least, right? We could turn things up a little bit more here. That's almost as good as it gets, right? It's pretty wild. And then we didn't use the order yet, we used the restore. Okay, so we can go and put down the location. And we can potentially even go and take the quartermaster here, right? Take a couple hits off of it. Maybe use Callus first. I'm watching this play. I'm not liking this play. You got to use Callus first. It doesn't really matter, but it's kind of like an extra point. I guess that increases the ceiling for... Okay, so I was doing it that way. That's fine. Then, yeah. And they can't spend, so last card's bad. It is what it is. I'm just playing the points here just to show them what I've got. This one wasn't very close, but we drew very well. And moving on to the next one here, we have Nilfgaard Imposter. That's a bronze heavy hand. And so this is the issue that I'm often facing, is we might often open with the Hermit and a couple of the Svalblod priests, and then not have like the payoff cards like the Melusine and the Drakars and stuff like that, right? So at least we have some discards which can generate some points, and at least run red coin here. We'll start digging for discards. Couple different things here. We could put the priests online, or we could hold them. The fact that we have two, I'd probably want to get one started soon, if we're going to do that, right? Get engine superiority. That's a really good roll with the quartermaster off the Diplo. I actually really like that card. Quartermaster, it's really cool. Just because the flexibility, right? You get to ping off shields, ping off armor. You're getting the 3 units. It does something for swarm. Like, there's a lot going on with that card. So yeah, we'll dump down these 2 priests, and then we'll start maybe looking at Berna. I kind of want them to play shallow, like a bit slower, thinking that this is the best we've got, and then just cram Berna down, get the 2 discards, and say, hey, you know, we're still in the round. See, they take a maxi feeling pretty comfortable, right? And then this is where I go, nope. And that's unfortunate, but at least that means we don't have to use Cirrus Fearless in round 1. You know what I mean? We can hold on to that, put that back in deck, it'll come out later. So that's pretty valuable. So in a round like this, where, like, this is what I'm talking about. Restore is something that we could play because some of our other cards are more valuable, and it's not going to play for a lot. So there you go, 6 points, 5 provisions, and I'm showing you guys these situations because I think it's valuable, right? They discard the Viper. I bought this energy drink because it has some like Apex redemption code on the tab. I want to see what it's for. I'm so bad at Apex, but I'm good at other shooters. It's weird. But I'm determined because I like the way the game looks. It's very aesthetic. Like, the maps are so like lively, and you know, it's a feel-good play. But the mechanics definitely taking some getting used to. I decide here we won uneven. Why don't we just play in around 2, right? And so here's the thing. Now we have the Sigvald and Melusine round 2. I don't have the Callus. You see, that's how it goes. So that's probably the heat wave, yeah. And this is not like an optimal play either for the Sigvald, right? Yeah, that's a good Giga. Syndicate here. And also, if you think about it too, one thing I've noticed is that if you put a Purify in the deck and you want to Purify Sigvald when he already has like 20 bleeding, then you're purifying that bleeding too, right? So that's kind of the thing. So it can get locked quite effectively. We do get a pretty good win there, just, you know. Moving on to the next one here, we've got one more game with the first version of the deck. And I think this game, I'm pretty sure this is the game. Yeah, I included one that we absolutely get clapped. And just so you guys know, I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning, I tried Vildkaarl, I tried Idarin, I've tried like Olaf, Truffle, like every sort of, like if there's a Skellige card, pretty much it was considered. With this deck, but I don't know. I'm most happiest with the two versions that we got so far. See, things are looking all right, right? Melusine's out there, Drakkar's doing work. Thinking about clicking because I'm thinking they might have a heat wave or something. A lot of non-devotion pirates going around, but smarter plays maybe just to hold and think. Yeah, there's the sunset, right? So we do have discards. And here's the thing, I could go down with the Callus off the Melusine and remove that boat. Like, that's also a thing, right? But, again, that play is a high point ceiling, so I'm trying to hold on to it. This is kind of the idea. I opt to dunk this right here, just because I'm thinking about leaving around anyways. I'm thinking they're probably going to pass, and if they do continue to play, then there was that option to take the Kadoosh Quartermaster off the Drakkar, so that was pretty much it. But you see a little bit of a trend here. We win round one, and it's always like a landslide if we pull into what we're looking for. I want to say the correct line is, if we can get Melusine like really tall and they can't answer that, then we just go down and we bleed like a really like long round 2 or something, and then we just go into like a short round 3. Maybe even if it costs us card to get Melusine out at like 30 plus points. Maybe that's the play. We can just keep playing here. We gotta be careful though, like the Olaf feels so risk. It would be nice to see sunset, right? That's kind of the idea. Nice to see sunset, get out some of that carryover from them. Maybe get the Melusine going a bit taller here. Yeah, so we get the heat wave, right? And the thing is, if we went with the defender, guys, they're purifying this or they're getting through it. So if I'm looking at their raider, that's 2 damage. Their leader's 6 damage. We're at 8. All right, they're close. They just got to play one more card. They get through the defender, and especially if the defender's up against the Melusine, then we save them the point there, and then you know they just heat wave it anyways, right? And the longer they wait to heat wave it, the better the heat wave gets because we've taken damage off units of our own. So oftentimes, like, if there's a heat wave to be had, we want to just get that done early, right? When Melusine's like under 10 points. So there you have it. They can go and play a Skald and save the sunset for round 3. And at this point, I knew we're in for a ride, right? The Kadoosh there is cool and everything. A little bit of healing property. We'll see what we have here in hand. There's really not a lot we can do about the 12 armor. I'm deciding, okay, do we heat wave that or nah, right? Because heat waving it's probably still not the best heat wave. Like sunset's probably going taller. And with the amount of turns left, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. There you go. You see what I mean? 14 points. Whereas the ship's worth like 11 if you think about it. The 4 plus the 7 cards in hand, the start of the round kind of thing. Yeah. So I guess we go down with the priest, right? I'm just trying to decide if we even want to self-wound or we just cram it on the board on the right side to maybe get some heal off of it. Because like it feels such a slow play. And we have Callus, but we missed the Sig Vault, right? I guess I'm thinking here, we take the Heat Wave. Like, when I play the Priest, they kill it the same turn. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So we can't really value putting out that engine quickly, right? And now I'm just thinking, alright, well... Crack's out there, no answer to crack. There's absolutely nothing we can do. The leader here is not ideal either because we don't have any targets. And this was a little bit better, like finding the targets when I played Vildkaarl or Blue Boy as well. So it's one of the reasons why I put it in the second one because at least there was a bit of payoff. I think Vildkaarl was a little bit of a trap. Just because it really gives them value on removal. Yeah, so we got... Again, second time in this video that you've seen the restore play for subpar value. So we just know when they play that ship there with like 20 plus points of removal, right? When they played it, like I don't even think they should have put it beside crack, right? But yeah, like that just takes out anything that we play. And now they just play Mardroeme for 1 point because they can. We can't keep a card out here. I'm deciding at this point, alright, forget about it. We'll play like everything here onto that. So then like we can have this little non-interactive situation where we can play our last card from deck, you know. You see what I mean? Basically, they don't get to use any of their orders. They just self-wound. Yeah, so a big amount of points would be Coral into a good target. Doesn't even matter. Like, that's the thing. It just doesn't matter here. And moving on to the last game, this one's going to be with the version 2 of the deck. It performed better in some elements, and overall it wasn't a whole lot different because it still had a lot of those if you answer this then we lose type conditions, which I wasn't as comfortable playing. Just a reminder, this one doesn't have restore because following the games with version 1 I wasn't convinced, right? And so we talked about, well, I talked about today for a little bit, one of the issues with Siege, and I was talking about how they thin cards so well now that the tempo is hard to match. This is what I'm talking about, okay? They play a bronze card from hand, 2 more cards play from hand, they draw 2 cards. Then they can play Raffords, which allows them to every few turns play a bronze and draw a card. And then they play Henselt, which allows them to play a card from deck. And then they play Amphibious Assault, that allows them to play a card from deck twice. You know? And I'm sitting here with a Scald in hand and a Burna, and well, Coral in this case, but you know, we have Burna somewhere, and we're just trying to find these options when they have these options more readily available. So that's kind of where the problem lies, I think, when you're comparing Siege to other factions. And it doesn't really affect the way that you build your deck all that much. Like when you look at the conditions for Skellige to thin, you gotta build a whole deck around Saskia to get that super thin, right? Saskia, or you could put like Simlas and Saskia. I don't even know if that'll fit really, but you could, right? Both of which cards are, by the way, more expensive than Raffords. And there's not that bronze thinning. The only bronze thinning that like Skellige has would be like the dwarfs, right? So we'll just try and figure something out here. Stay in it as long as we can. I'm thinking about saving the half-roofs and the Mashi unless they try, like, in the event that they try and bleed us here, like, into a round 2, we got some point slams. Something that doesn't set up, like, get a lot of setup. Now, I don't think it's possible with, obviously, this big turn they just had, right? They wiped pretty much every trace of cards we had on the board. Draws aren't bad. I kind of like gutting slashes here because it's going to help us control some of those engines. I don't love the priest. I think it just gets answered too easily in this matchup. Now, my question is, what are they looking to give Zeal? They played Rafford's, maybe a duel, but you don't really want to duel something that's not boosted, right? Could be anything. So I'm gonna err on the side of caution here, not play too aggressively, just take it out and see what they have. So in this case here, I'm thinking, okay, let's try and get some advantage, and we'll play Truffle on ranged because we're probably gonna stack melee if they pulse it, like the scenario, you know? So I dumped the Pellar here thinking that, okay, well, no one I'm playing against is running a defender, so we don't need it, right? But then I realized that this matchup had a defender, so I was pretty upset about that. That would have been kind of what Pellar's for. However, if we get through the defender here, we don't have the heat wave. So we gotta pull something here. We gotta try and search for something. Also kind of nice is, yeah, it's kind of nice taking the discard off the shield so we can actually start getting hits in off that defender if we need to. And fortunately we do pull the Fuchsia. I was thinking it was lost cause, but now I'm trying to remain hopeful here. We got something going on. I like how the Truffle boosts things up for the Callus. I think that's definitely pretty useful, right? So it goes down to 8. Yeah, maybe there might have been a correct line just to like sacrifice the Sigvald there, but what we really needed it would be like at that 10, right? Take out the 5. At this point, it's not really that big of a deal. It's kind of gone. If I take that back, we get Rain in the back row. We might be able to snipe the... Yeah, so if we get a good hit here, we're fine. We have 2 turns to deal with. I think we actually might save the leader for now. Just because I have Blue Boy in hand as well, and it might help us complete the random kill. So we get one more turn to try and get through that. Then we have Blue Boy and the Gutting Slash to kind of lean on a little bit. I didn't hit Callus as well because I figured they're probably going to go and try and take it out. So it does give us the Berserk, so why would we help them? We kind of want to get Blue Boy down before bombardment or anything like that. So... sort of the idea.
A drop of knowledge can overpower even a sea of strength.
At this point, it feels like we should just go and remove that defender. We missed it with rain. We missed it with everything else. We just got to get rid of the problem. Sigvald for 1, I guess. Maybe. Because I want to get rid of that full test pride. It's looking pretty nasty. What there's 2 takes that out. And again, there's hope here. It's possible. They gotta, if they don't have scenario, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a shot, right? But if they have scenario, then I'm thinking it's over. And they could just be doing short siege, right? Having board established first. It's kind of the point I'm thinking. Maybe we just put that down here. Doesn't really matter where we play it. Just trying to see if we can get lucky on sniping something of importance at this point. Yeah, it's fine. Just let it sit. Use the quartermaster maybe off of it and then use it next turn. I want to see if we can get rid of that reinforced ballista on the range row, that 4 power one. I'd be happy with the front one even at this point. No reason to row stack. I'm just throwing down cards at this point because it doesn't really matter where we play it. Go there. Now, Sirius coming out in round 3 is kind of nice to see. Just go heal that. Dish it onto the 1, right? So now, that's kind of the swing that we wanted. But if they don't have siege, we'll find out this turn, right? You see, I kind of like that play, being able to cycle little small heals, even if it's 1 point, and then just throwing it back on the blue boy, you know? Especially when it's beside the Kadoosh. So I'm happy with the way things are panning out here. And also, they miss siege, right? So I don't even know if... Well, I don't think that this game would have the same outcome had they drawn siege. And it's very unfortunate because they went down to 4 cards and still missed it. We did miss our heat wave, so... So that's the best we've got. 38 points, can they beat it? And I got a lot of plans for the week. I'm already kind of starting to figure out the next thing I'm going to be working on. Going to be playing Control, I think, for the next couple days following this one. But definitely some good things on the way. Nilfgaard, more Syndicate, and maybe some more Skellige.